question from Linda today. It's nearly Shabbat soon, so I wish everyone Shabbat Shalom. Have a wonderful Shabbat. Linda asked, Benjamin, if you have the time, can you explain to me, is polygamy relevant today? It is causing, I believe, frustration in the messianic movement, Linda. Yes, it is, because most people are not actually in the Jewish synagogue to understand the ins and outs of what this subject is really taught. So I'm not going to preach to you guys. I'm just going to give you guys what is basically Torah. So this is my interpretation. Yes, polygamy is relevant today only in the context of life. Okay, only in the context of life, and what that means is to uphold life. And in the case of the life in question, it is the widow. It is women who their husband have died and they become widows. Okay, that is the context. Now this is called in Hebrew PiKuAch Nefesh. PiKuAch Nefesh. Okay, it is the principle in Jewish law that the preservation of human life overrides virtually any religious commandment. When the life of a specific person is in danger, almost any mitzvah, lo ta'aseh, which is the command to not do an action of the Torah, becomes inapplicable. Okay? So, PiKuAch Nefesh, it means we have a whole life. And that is the context of where I'm going to take you. Because in the word PiKuAch Nefesh, which makes up of the word PiKuAch, pei, which is 80, yod, which is 10, kuf is 100, vav is 6, and Chet is 8, which adds up to 204, and Nefesh, which is nun, 50, and pei is 80, and Shin is 300, which adds up to 430. Now, you combine 204 and 430, it gives you 634. 634. 634 also makes the word NaQamT Dam. It means the avenging of blood. Avenging of blood. NaQamT Dam, which is nun, kaf, mem 40, and tav 400. So it's nun 50, kaf 100, mem 40, and tav 400. And dam, which means blood, is 40, and dalet is 4, and you add those up, it comes to 634. So in preserving life, there is also the blessing and the cursing of you will be cursed if we are going to mistreat this widow, and the avenger of blood will come and seek that person. Okay, so I'll share more about it so you can understand. But that is the context between the two words. Okay, if PiKuAch Nefesh and NaQamT Dam. You can find the avenger of blood starting in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 19, verse 6 and 12 as well. And they don't call him Nacham. They call him Gael Chadam, meaning the avenger of blood. Now, if you study that word, it means their redeemer, the kinsman's redeemer. So in that context, I'll take you to Isaiah chapter 1, verse 11, and that's what it says, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, which is the orphans, and plead the case of widows. For us who have come to Torah, defending the orphans and the widows is one of the key mitzvahs in this life. We have to give our support and our everything to defending the orphans and the widows. It is one of the key things that Hashem looks down upon his people, and it is a must. And Mark chapter 4, verse 40, Yeshua warns against the false teachers, okay, false teachers, and he says, you devour widows' houses, okay, and you make your prayers long, okay, we know that, and these men will be punished more severely. Now we understand Yeshua is a kinsman redeemer shadow, so in the context of polygamy, I'm starting now like Moshe. The context of polygamy is only in the situation if a life is in danger, or it is Hashem's will. Okay, polygamy meant multiple wives, a man having multiple wives. The context is only if the woman is in danger, or if it's Hashem's will for that man to have multiple wives. Okay, we don't go around looking for multiple wives. Okay, we don't do that. Now, a man who does that, he's not in the context of Torah. Okay, so we have to get that very clear. Men today who want multiple wives, they are only playing with women's hearts and emotions, and it is a great, great sin if a man actually does that. Okay, in the context of Torah, it is in the context if she was married, her husband dies, she becomes a widow. That context is to uphold her life. I'll share more about it. We're going back to the beginning of how all this happened. Hashem created one man for one wife. We know that. The first man was Adam, right? Adam. His first wife was Lydia. Now Lydia, she obeyed. Outside of the garden, she obeyed. Therefore, it forced Hashem to create Chava. Chava means Eve. You know her as Eve. Chava, the mother of all children. Chava, from Adam. Okay, the rib. But it's not from the rib, that's another story. And he brought Adam and Chava into the Garden of Eden. Okay, where he hoped that they will live as man and wife, but things the same. The enemy always tries to break up the family unit. The family unit is one of the key things about Torah. It is always about family, and we know that if a man wants to have multiple wives, it is the structure of family as well. And we will see that, and we will see how Hashem, and we will see how Yeshua will try and give us this understanding. Okay. But God, out of His mercy, gave a law that allowed man to marry another wife in the context if she becomes a widow and she cannot defend for herself, meaning she doesn't have a house, she doesn't have food, and she's in a desolate situation, a situation where she can't get out of. Therefore, her next kin, her brother-in-law, must support her, or a man who is able must support her, and the Torah calls this marriage. Okay. Now let's go to our Master Yeshua and see what he says. Now let's go to Matthew 22:24. Matthew 22:24. I want you to go to there. Matthew 22:24. If you have your book, Matthew 22:24, and the context is about the context there is about marriage and the resurrection. But that's not what this is about. Because I want you to understand something, okay? Starting at verse 24. Matthew 22:24, saying, now these are the teachers of the laws. Master, Moshe said, if a man dies, having no children, his brother shall marry his wife and raise up seed unto his brother. There you go. So that, they know that is a mitzvah, a commandment. The commandment is, if a man dies, having no children, his brother shall marry his wife and raise up his seed unto his brother. That is the commandment. So if your brother dies with a wife, you're obliged to marry her. She has the right to go to the brother-in-law and say, you must take me as a wife now. That is by Torah standard. That is Torah law. That is a law. Okay, so we know that. Yeshua did not argue about that. What he argued about was if they would marry in the next life. This is the problem. He defended, he didn't say anything about marrying another brother's wife. He defended in the resurrection. Okay? Now we go to Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 5, and this is the commandment where Yeshua, where they were asking him from. Book of Deuteronomy, Devarim 25, chapter 25 verse 5 says, if a brother dwells together and one of them dies, having no children, the wife of the dead shall not marry without a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go into her and take her to him as a wife and perform the duty of a husband's brother unto her. There you go. That's the mitzvah. Okay, that's the mitzvah in Torah. Yeshua was not upset about the marriage of the widow, but he was upset about the question on who will get her at the resurrection. That's what he was upset about. You see, and they were more focused on the resurrection than looking after the oppressed widow at this time. So we know that Yeshua did not object to another man or another brother marrying his dead, marrying the wife. Okay? Marrying his wife. Marrying the dead brother's wife. If you understand what I'm trying to say there. Okay. Now, I want you to go to Exodus 21, chapter 21, because everyone mentions this, the Hebrew servant. Now, this is the context of a Hebrew servant who works for Hebrew. Okay, so the Hebrew servant, again, is poor. He's poor. He's probably an orphan. He's got no money. And he goes and works for a rich family, a Hebrew family who is rich. So he's called a Hebrew servant. Now, one of the laws that apply to him in verse 10, if he wants to marry. So Exodus chapter 21, verse 10, if he marries another woman, he must not deprive the first one of her food, clothing, and material rights. If he does not provide her with these three things, she is free to go without any payment of money. The context here about a man marrying multiple wives is not about sex. It's about able to look after her, able to support her needs. As Hebrews and as Israelites, we cannot let our women lose their honor, lose their respect, lose their faith, lose their life, lose their nefesh. It is our role as men to uplift women who have had a severe loss of a husband. It's not our goal to go around collecting women as prizes. That's not what Torah does. We also have a duty, if we are able to take care, if Hashem financially is able to take care of us and our family, our wife, then our duty is to support a woman who has become a widow. Let's continue on. So people like Judah and Tamar. Tamar lost her husband, and Judah became, in a sense, the supportive husband role. Boaz and Ruth, another example of Ruth losing her husband and Boaz taking on that kinsman redeemer type of shadow. Okay, because imagine the husband that died, he will want to avenge any man who dishonors his wife. This is, you have to understand, even though he's not living, spiritually he will come as an avenger of blood to avenge any man who has defiled his wife and not take on the ownership and the role as a husband duty to support her, feed her, clothe her, and put a roof under her head. Okay. Now, I want you to go to Deuteronomy chapter 21 verse 15, because everyone uses this. They think just because it's in the book, the Torah, that any man has the right to go and marry multiple wives. Deuteronomy chapter 21, 15, the context there is to settle disputes of the right of the firstborn. It is to settle the disputes of the right of the firstborn. So 15 says this: if a man has two wives and he loves one more than the other, and both bear him sons, but the firstborn is the son of his wife he does not love. It goes on and on. That's just if a man happens to have two wives, in the context if you happen now to have redeemed a widow, and over the course of time the widow loves the redeemer, the husband, and she bore a son. This law applies to that man. You see, it goes on now. So Hashem, out of His mercy, has given us another law to resolve things that eventually will happen down the track when a man has multiple wives. It is actually a very good thing, a very graceful thing, a very merciful thing to allow these laws, these commandments to be given. For us, it is different because it is for our own gain. Having multiple wives is not any gain. It is actually it is tiring. It is it is a heavy burden for a man to support another wife on top of the wife that he has. They have to understand this. Okay, so now we go to Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 17. Okay, this is another thing that men who want to have multiple wives will use, saying that this is the law and it's allowed. That context in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 17, neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart turns not. It is regarding the king. The context here is regarding a leader. It's not regarding you. It's not regarding me. It's regarding a leader. There's a difference there. So you can't use that in the sense that this is what Hashem says and this allows me to have multiple wives. No, it doesn't. Okay, so King David and King Solomon, we understand their reasoning and we understand their downfall. But you have to understand King Solomon, the wisest of all kings, and he went and married 1,000 wives. He was not dumb. So therefore, there was another level of what he was trying to show his wives, the people of that time. Okay? And so, I'm going to cut it short because I'm rambling on. The context of multiple wives today is about supporting the widow or the woman whose life is in danger. Her honor is in danger. Her respect is in danger. It's not about sex. Okay? It's hard enough to have one wife than two. The context is to support and provide the basic means for her to live. Okay? The widow has the right to approach her brother-in-law and say to him, marry me. Therefore, if God has blessed a family and the husband and the wife sees that it is their duty to take care of a widow, then they have that duty to take care of the widow, and the Torah calls this marriage. Now, if any man runs around and wants to marry multiple wives to cause confusion and heartache and emotional burden and to take women away from Torah, because at the end of the day, if that is the mind of a person who says they do Torah and marries multiple wives, runs around without any foundation, without any constructive in their life, a foundation of a man, how a man and a family should be, then really that man should reevaluate why he wants multiple wives. But if Hashem puts a man in a situation where he doesn't want multiple wives, but yet a woman, heaven forbids, if it's his brother-in-law's wife, comes to him and says, I need your support, I cannot manage myself, he has the obligation to marry that wife, not to marry, but to even look after her, take her in as if his own, to give her a room, a roof, food, clothing, and over time support her and her needs. And that Torah basically is called marriage, even though the world does not see it as so. But these days, if you have a sister-in-law that lives in your own home, I mean, people just see it as a way of helping her. And so by Torah standard, we're actually doing a very good thing. Now, people can judge us how they want, but in the eyes of Hashem, He will bless your household, He will bless you, and He will increase you to continue to help the orphans and the widows. I hope that people understand what I'm trying to say. If not, please go through the scriptures, but it is to uphold life. It is a PiKuAch Nefesh. It is to uphold life. Torah always makes us uphold life. At the end of the day, Torah, we can do as much Torah as we want. Everything is commentary if we don't uphold life. Have a happy Shabbat. May Abba increase and favor you above all people. Shabbat Shalom.